I was watching this documentary about mistreatment of animals, and it had a section on how cruel zoos are. And since they can't just ask the tiger if he's distressed by the feng shui of his enclosure, they have to examine his behavior. And it was all things like rocking and pacing, just various manifestations of fidgeting. And these are all things that I've witnessed in state education, and probably at the zoo, but on the human side of the cages. If anything, I would have been watching this documentary with half my hand in my mouth due to like some inextricable tension I have. It's interesting how the documentarians thought that telling me the animal was under the same circumstances as me would be morally galvanizing. Like, we've accepted we're on the industrial society train and we'll take all the accompanying suffering, but if this is inflicted on animals, it's some great injustice that they can't consent to. Drawing comparisons between human behavior and captive animals is always riveting. When experts explain the specific elements of captive life they believe to be the source of zoochosis, they're always totally relevant to modern urban human living. They often cite no genuine threats to health, calories consumed are completely detached from effort, superficial outlets for aggression, confined spaces, which is more salient to your life than you think, and insufficient family and broader social web. What zoologists find is that when you subject an animal to these conditions, they respond with the same predictable behaviors. The aforementioned fidgeting, abnormal and repetitive vocalization, noises without clear purpose, infant neglect, apathy and withdrawal, lying still for long periods, sexual dysfunctions such as inappropriate courtship rituals, increased homosexuality, mounting inanimate objects, and excessive masturbation and reduced fertility. More tragically, they also display hyperaggression, self-harm, regurgitation of food, and eating disorders like anorexia, overeating, polydipsia, and eating non-food objects like rocks or feces. While it can be quite fun to draw parallels between urbanites and zoo animals, it ought to go without saying that when talking about humans, you can't relegate all of these behaviors to being solely caused by the factors we share with captive animals. But I honestly don't think it's unfair to say that the sum of these factors is at least the plurality of the causes. Essentially, everyone can relate to one of the behaviors listed above, and typically those afflicted will maintain a certain sentiment, overtly or not, that it's their fault, that there's something disorderly about them. Whether it be that they can't spit game or they can't stop eating drain cleaner, they'll espouse that it's due to some specific trauma of theirs. However, when these behaviors are examined in the zoological literature, that tone is not found. Instead, the behaviors are seen more as a logical, orderly result of the environmental conditions being inflicted on a being of their biological capacity. Take a look at this. Drunken elephants have trampled at least 6 people to death in northeast Indian state of Assam, local officials say. It has been noticed that elephants have developed a taste for rice beer and local liquor, and they always look for it when they invade villages, an elephant expert in Guwahati told Reuters news agency. They smashed huts and plundered granaries and broke open casks to drink rice beer. The herd then went berserk, killing 6 people, a forestry official told AFP news agency. In response to this, the local villagers then embarked upon what Wikipedia described as a retaliatory slaughter of about 200 elephants. There's a whole wiki article on elephant executions in the United States, and every time it's the same story. An abused circus elephant gets beat, humiliated every day in front of the elephant huz, has lit cigarette butts put in his food. Eventually, though, the Elliot Rodger elephant will snap and go on a rampage, killing his trainer and running onto the street, destroying people's property. And in response, the elephant is always apprehended and publicly executed. Now, both of these instances have a tinge of anger to them, like when Wikipedia describes the villagers as engaging in retaliatory violence, like they're a vengeful mob rather than a kind of deliberate, intelligent, organized culling campaign to keep their community and property safe. Or the idea that the circus owners would be confounded that the elephant they had been abusing inevitably spazzed out. Now, sometimes when people are speaking about Elliot Rodger, they have to make a point of just personally insulting the guy, and when you look into the case, it's just one big tragedy that ended just as poorly for him as all his victims. On a side note, I don't think it's fair to call him chiefly a misogynist like most people do. If you actually contend with what he's saying, he's more of a general misanthrope who hated Chad's more than Stacy's, and had suffered psychological dysphoria from the cognitive dissonance of his belief that he was like this great, awesome guy, not being reflected in the circumstances of his life. And if you don't find that deeply relatable, like, just click off this video, go watch a Marvel movie, unsubscribe from my channel right now. Now, I am very pro-death penalty, and what I'm trying to get across here isn't some liberal fairy bullshit that criminals shouldn't be punished because they themselves are victims of society too, but rather that there's no need to be angry and take people's harm against you personally. I'm also not saying that humans have no free will. I used to be a very strong determinist, but recently I've realized that it is more complicated. I remember Sam Harris saying that punishment is made somewhat void by the implications of determinism, which I disagree with, but I'll save the explanation for my future video on criminal punishment because that whole system is just such an obvious mess. The takeaway is just that we're all in the trenches together. Even the chief symbol of bravery, the lion, yes, that one, can't handle the stresses of domesticated life. So if you were actually in a trench with a bunch of people and they're having strange emotional outbursts against you, you can understand that that's just to be expected with the circumstances that we're all in. I guess I'm also saying that I don't think there's as much a gulf of agency between humans and animals as many seem to think there is. This lack of agency on behalf of humans is also why liberalism is such a failure, but that's another video. When you see reels of people having public freakouts, people in the comments can be very uncharitable. And I think about how it's not rare for dogs to be set off by random things. And when it comes to a dog having a meltdown, everyone understands. Okay, wow, we've done something to stress it out, it's usually really chill. Let's remove the stressor and then take 5 and we can circle back. What you don't do is start scolding the dog going, "Oh, it's fucking retard dog. Oh, he's got anxiety. Someone put him on drugs." Except some people do that now, but you understand my point. I am very anti-dog ownership. I think it's bizarre and cruel. For one, I don't have any affection towards dogs. They always try and hurt me. I think they're gross and their barking is irritating, even distressing. I walk past houses and the dogs go crazy at me, and their owner has to shout at them to settle down. And I think, are you seriously doing this all day, every time someone walks past the gate? This sounds exhausting for everyone involved. And I get the impression that the dogs are very distressed by it. I know 3 dogs on anti-anxiety/depression meds. Maybe the dog obviously hates living with you? Just let it be free. And to make matters worse, if it's a boy dog, they literally mutilate his genitals, and people say it's good because it decreases aggression. Obviously, it's now a depressed eunuch. You have sexually mutilated an animal because you thought it would be a cute little ornament around your house. And then you say you love your dog? That's not a loving thing to do, just leave it alone. Imagine this. I tape your arms to your side and your legs together. I blind you, lobotomize you, and give you hypothermia, so your body is so cold it can't digest food properly, and then I leave you in the dirt to writhe around and lick food off the floor. You're probably thinking, which Mexican drug cartel have I offended? But you've actually only offended God, and he's chosen to make you born a snake. The idea of animal consciousness is honestly deeply disturbing, but it's also a useful philosophical tool. I always thought animal suffering was an interesting and overlooked argument against any human-centric notion of God, and I was pleased to see Alex O'Connor mention it in his Jubilee debate, because being a snake, it sounds worse than hell. I understand that telling a human imagining having no arms or eyes is a bit like a dolphin saying to another dolphin, it must be hard being a human, imagine having no blowhole or dorsal fin, but I still think it's fair. I remember my mom once accidentally drove over a snake, and I looked back at it, and it was like 1.5 meters in the air, and I was thinking, like, did the back wheel of the car flick it up? But then as it hit the ground, it just kept bouncing up back into the air, and I realized it was actually just squirming in such intense, senseless pain. It has no idea what happened to it. One moment, he was having a brief moment of peace, digesting his food on the warm tarmac. Then this dumb bitch crushes his ribcage and organs, and now he's permanently disabled and will probably die of starvation. And he has no idea. He doesn't even understand what's happening to him. He doesn't understand that there is a self experiencing the pain. He's just a creature of sensation that is constantly sensing bizarre, uncontextualized, intense pain. Every time I see a snake, I just see an Abu Ghraib prisoner, confused and in pain. And I don't know if it's even much better for chameleons or even deer. I feel like people don't take veganism seriously enough as a valid moral position. Far too often people just laugh it out of the room, despite meat eating seeming to be in contradiction to everyone's most basic moral precepts. Everyone gets all uncomfortable when confronted with how the animals are treated and slaughtered, and that's fine. You can have cognitive dissonance and just say, I do this cause it's easy and I like it, but I honestly can't justify it. But instead, people just spurg out and laugh at vegans and call them crazy. I justify it by saying that the animals would kill me and eat me if they had the opportunity, and are effectively my enemies. And also that maybe if I eat the animal's flesh, I consume its spirit, and I get like spiritual power, which sounds badass. But no one else holds these views, and it's the opinion of the law and Christianity that killing your enemies is unacceptable. And this reflects what people espouse to be their morality. So I don't know how they think it's okay to kill innocent cows, but have a problem with the state executing your brother's murderer. And they can't say that mammals are an invalid moral category, because these people espouse to love dogs, which, yeah, it's different, but get over it. It really isn't that different from cows. So my point is, you can just say, yes, I eat meat because I like it and I want to pretend that it's not a gaping hole in my moral framework. But that means don't laugh at vegans who expose you for being a shallow thinker.